Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Spellbinders. This is from their Fun Stamper Journey line and their Buzzworthy Collection. So the stencil is the Sweet Honeycomb stencil, and then the stamps that I'm using is just called Sweet as Honey. These are red rubber stamps. I don't use a ton of red rubber stamps, but honestly, like, you cannot get detail with clear stamps that you can with red rubber stamps. So there are certain ones that are definitely are still like on my, yeah, I'll definitely buy those. So here, this set has a large peony in it, and I, of course, you know, flowers, hello. I'm going to use that as my focal point. And then it also has some like black-eyed Susans and some leaves and things like that in there. So I'm just going to build myself a little bouquet kind of in the corner. So you know me, I love one layer cards. So that's what I'm creating here today. So as I stamp them, I am going to mask them. One thing to note, I am using my Misty, but you'll notice that the foam pad is missing, and that's because red rubber stamps have that foam pad built into them. That's why they are thicker. So if you're going to be stamping in your Misty platform, like, you need to remove that foam portion. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim out my mask and then put that down to cover up that flower while I stamp the flowers and leaves around it. And then I'm just going to stamp as I go. I have to have a mask for all of my stamped images this time around. Like, sometimes I can kind of cheat and just move them around as I'm stamping, but it's because I'm going to be creating this fun kind of layered textured background, which, you know, it is a little different for me because I do typically do scene cards, or I do clean and simple. So this one's still pretty clean just because that's my style and that's what I'm drawn to, but there is a lot more interesting things going on in the background. So we're just going to move through that, like I said, stamping and masking as we go. I'm not going to force you to watch all of the trimming of the masks because that does take a minute. Not everybody loves fussy cutting, but masks are kind of necessary if you love one layer cards like I do. And I don't really mind the fussy cutting, probably because I was fussy cutting well before dyes were like a thing that was on the market, but they are super handy to have. They just don't work for a one layer card all the time. So here, going to put in the leaves. There's a lot more like leaves and things I'm going to use to build them out. I did not include all of it because I figured you got the gist of it as we were, you know, doing this portion of it, but all of it's the same. Stamp down your image, stamp your mask, or you can stamp your masks beforehand. That's obviously a thing that you can do. And if I have an idea of how I'm going to build something, I usually will. Here's like where I was going to use the cheater mask and I realized, no, I need masks for everything. Need masks for all the things. So like I said, I am going to cut some of it out just because you have seen it multiple times, and there is coloring in this video, which is pretty time consuming. So I wanted you to be able to see all of the coloring and just give you the idea here of what we are doing. I will, just one thing to note, one of the branches I used does kind of have individual leaves. I did cut them out individually and then put those masks down. I didn't really have any issues with any of them moving except for one little leaf, and it's this one right here I'm messing with. It for some reason did not want to stick. I don't know if I got like my fingerprint oils on the back of it, but it just wasn't having it. Here I am using my Tombow Mono Multi Glue. I do this to all of my stencils. I just find that doing this, I don't have to mess around with taping them down. So this is a little bit more time consuming on the forefront, but then I can use the stencil multiple times without having to worry about it losing its stickiness. It has to be Tombow Mono Multi Glue. There is no other glue that will work this way that I'm aware of because it remains tacky. So it's permanent when you put it down wet, and then it is repositionable when you put it down dry. So I covered the whole back of that with my Tombow Mono Multi Glue, and then I can just stick and re-stick my stencils. People have asked me in the past how I store them. I just stick them right back down to their plastic package, and then I can peel them up when I need them. For the background, I did want there to be some color kind of coming back out from my bouquet. So I'm using this brushed corduroy Distress Oxide, and I'm going very, very lightly. You can see each time before I bring my ink blender to my paper, I am blotting it off on my watercolor media mat, and that is to just make sure that it's going to be super light. I'm going to just kind of blend that out from there, so that way it does have some contrast and some color in the background. Now, set my stencil aside to dry. I do tap it on my hands a couple of times. I do know, this is true facts, I do know that there is going to leave some stickiness behind, because it always does the first time I use it. After that, the stickiness is pretty minimal that it leaves behind, but the first time it always does. That's why I have an adhesive eraser. Here I'm just checking to see if I have enough of the pattern. I just put it down sporadically, kind of all over the place, just to create a little bit of pattern. I let it kind of blend off in different spots so that you could see the honeycomb pattern. You could totally leave it this way and just leave it as it is, and it's still super cute. Here's me going back in with that adhesive eraser just to get rid of any of the glue that might have stuck. It isn't tearing my paper. I'm not doing it with my finger because there's dirt and things on your hands, like especially since I was ink blending, and I don't want to rub that on my card base. So that's why I use the adhesive eraser. These are relatively inexpensive and they last forever because they're huge and you only need to use like a corner of it. So I just kind of run my hand along it, feeling for any stickiness once that's all removed. Now, like I said, you could totally leave this the way that it was and it would be fine, but I love some bling. Y'all know I love some bling. I love the shinies and the glitters and the metallics and all that jazz. So I thought it would be fun to use the honeycomb stamp that comes in the set with some gold embossing powder. So I treated it with my embossing anti-static tool, hitting it with the Versamark, and then I'm going to stamp it down in just a couple various places. Please, 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 please make sure your background is dry. Like completely dry. If you're using Distress Inks, Distress Oxides, hit it with the heat tool, check it first, make sure it's completely dry. I knew mine was because I finished my ink blending before I went to go pick up Peanut from school. And then I did this portion after I got back home. So like an hour had transpired. I already knew that it was dry. So once this is on there, I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. I do heat up my heat gun before I do any embossing to minimize the warping on my paper. But then you can see it. Look how pretty that is. Yes, girl. It is so pretty. I love... Embossing is always magic, but metallic embossing is particularly special just because it looks so cool. So I'm just going to put down a couple of these like block portions that have the hexagons all in them. I didn't necessarily perfectly line it up with the stencil because there is larger spacing in between the stencil, but I did try to make sure they were at least like in the same row, you know what I'm saying, so that it made sense. There is a small little single hexagon in the set as well, and I'm going to use that later on just to kind of create my little triangle that I was going for, my visual triangle that I was going for. But you could certainly just use that single one and just do a couple of little gold honey or little hexagons in the background, and that would work. I did get some gapping in between my masks and my stamp, but I'm gonna kind of fix that up a little bit later with a different thing. So as far as life goes, so we had Halloween. It was crazy. But at least it wasn't raining. It was cold, but it wasn't too terrible. And we always go with Nathan's dad's because Nathan has cousins on that side. So we always go with them. So even though we had the COVID situation where his dad could not go, I still went with them so that Nathan could trick-or-treat with his cousins. And so we did that. It was a very good time. And so pretty much, I mean, we've just been doing the things. Now that he is back in school, naps are back to being an option for this wonderful mama here. So I'm super excited about that because who doesn't love naps? Somebody at work said to me, like, what do you mean you nap? You're grown. yeah, and I'm sad that I was not more grateful for the naps that I was allowed when I was a child. Um, but I survived my life with a series of naps. It's pretty much how I roll because I don't sleep a lot of regular hours. Combination of just having a lot of things going on and working night shift just means your schedule's messed up, and that's okay. I mean, that's the life that I chose, and it gives me the opportunity to spend the most time with my family. So that's that. We've been working in the garage quite a bit, quite a bit, doing this table and chairs. Chairs. Oh, we'll talk about those in a minute. Okay, so I got all the gold on there, and then I wanted there to be just like some spatters, some extra little something coming off of these gold hexagons, and I didn't want to have to take the time to stamp individual hexagons all over. So I am kind of cheating, and I am using gold perfect pearls to just kind of splatter around them to add more interest. But then I'm going to take that, and then anywhere that like the gold embossing didn't go right up to the edge of my masks, I'm just going to fill that in with the perfect pearls. Is it a perfect fix? No, because it's not exactly the same shade, and obviously embossing powder is different from perfect pearls. But when you look at it in the light, it does complete the shape, and so it's close enough for government work for me, and I'm cool with it. So I'm going to remove all the masks here, and then we're going to see what we're left with. This peony mask, I have no idea why it wouldn't come up. It would not come up. And I was being very careful because I do have on dark nail polish and I'm not looking to swipe it all over my card. So I had to get a little tool to help me out. These, like I said before, these particular stamps are part of the Fun Stampers journey that Spellbinder has. And there's a whole host of them, and a lot of them are on sale, and they're great sets. Here's something cool that I saw on their website. So first of all, I'll leave a link to their clearance section below if you're watching on YouTube, because there's so many good things in there. Like they have things up to 75% off. Just so good. But here is something fun that I saw that I did not even realize was a thing. In their Fun Stampers journey, they have jewelry. What? Yes, I did say that. And there is like the cutest little like bar necklaces or charms. And they have this little like silver bar necklace. Like it's got like the solid bar, and then it has the word creative engraved in it. And it's only $10. So I think I probably should have gone and bought it before I posted this video, but here we are. So save one for me, guys. But they have other ones that say like inspired. That was just something so totally unique and original. I've never seen a stamp company do that. I thought was super cool. But they always have a ton of great like sales and deals. So I will, like I said, post that link below if you're interested. On to the coloring. So you're probably thinking that I'm a little bit crazy for this color combination because that's a brown. Yes, it is. It is a brown. E21 is a brown. And I've combined it with some pinky coral colors. But stay with me now. This is one of our trust exercises. I wanted like a blush light coral colored peony. I thought that would look really good with the like brownish gold background and then the yellow of the Black Eyed Susans. So that is how I ended up with this color combination. So for the most part, I'm using the E20 or the R20 family, not E20, though that is a good color combination as well. The R20 family. So I've got an R20, R22, R24, but we're going to use minimal of the R24. We ain't going to get crazy because that one's clearly red when you are using it by itself. But we do need a shadow color. Always, always, always need a shadow color. So I thought that I would use a lighter E color, which is more like a cream color, to do just my very edges to kind of knock it back so it wasn't so bright. So I'm doing my coloring the same way that I always do, starting with my lightest color to my darkest color, and then my darkest back out to my lightest. Now I've already told you, minimal, just a little teeny tiny bit of R24. Don't get crazy, you're going to have a red peony. So I'm only going to put that just where I want it to be the darkest. And then the way that the flower is drawn, peonies have a lot of texture and a lot of folds and wrinkles and things like that. So I am taking my darker colors and I'm just accentuating the lines that are already there that are drawn by the artist. Just drawing a straight line down. It's going to look weird. You're going to think it looks weird. It's totally fine. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Because once you start building the colors on top of them, they blend in, and then they do really look like those folds and wrinkles, so that your flower does have more dimension. So yeah, that's that. So back to the chairs. I have no idea why I get myself in these situations. Yes, I do, because I want to do things for other people, and I want to create things and do things that I enjoy. And so then, anyway, I ended up with this table and chairs that we're redoing. And chairs, why? I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to stain the seat, and then we're going to paint the like the spindles and the legs, so it won't be as bad as my dining room set. But you still have to sand all that stuff so that the paint adheres. I mean, you don't have to sand the finish off, but you got to scuff sand it. So you got to sand everything, sand all the things. And sanding's not really that fun. Now, I don't mind it nearly as much as Eric does. God bless him. But he does it anyway because he loved me. But the sanding portion of it always takes so long. It's messy. You gotta clean it, to sand it, to clean it, to, all that stuff. But it is coming along. We had 2 days off together, which was super nice to be able to spend so much time together. And we do that, while we're doing these things. It also gives me the opportunity to spend some time with Peanut, because I will tell you, this is every parent has shortcomings. And while you guys are very encouraging about the type of mother that I am, and I love you for it, I love you for your support and your kind words, I'm not an outdoor mom. It's just not really what I am. I don't really like being outside. I don't want to be outside, especially if it's cold. No, thank you. Like, we will go outside and play on the swing set or play catch, or I bought him this little ring toss game. We will play that. He loves basketball, so sometimes we do that in the driveway. But I'm pretty much good after 20 minutes. 20 minutes is my outside limit. Which, like I said, I can full on admit is one of my shortcomings as a mother. It's not something I enjoy. I don't really want to do it. However, I do, because he is my child and the things that he wants to do are important to me. But this refinishing things, this project things in the garage has given us a way for us to be outside together, and both of us doing something that isn't the equivalent of watching paint dry. Because the paint is drying, but we're not watching it happen. But then, when he wants to take a break and ride his scooter, he can. When he wants to help, he likes to wash the things. He will help sand. He really likes to paint. Though we have to be careful what we let him paint. But then, the other day, we were in the garage, and he told me that he wanted to build something because we had some leftover plywood, and I was like, okay. Now, this is the first time he's ever come up with his own idea, and I'm all about encouraging this. I'm all about encouraging him to be creative and come up with his own ideas. Back to the card. So now I'm all the way out to the lightest color again, and I'm not going to swipe it all over my coral. I'm just going to go in on the edges, because I don't want to tint it all with that brown cream color. I just want to blend them together. And then once I do this, it was a little bit too cream for me. If it's not for you, that's cool. Just leave it and go on. But if you're like me and you wanted a little bit more pink, then just go back over it with the R20. I just felt like the edges were blended into the background a little too much for me. That's all. But so he came to me and was like, I have this idea. So I was like, okay, we measured it out. He wanted to build a shelf. So we measured it out, and he cut it with the little handsaw, with me basically sweating bullets the whole time he was doing it, because I was terrified. But I also don't want to stifle him. So he did it himself. He cut the wood with the handsaw. Now obviously it's just very thin, plywood, but he did it himself. Good for him. And then so there was another piece that needed to be cut that couldn't be done with the saw. So the next time we were out in the garage, he asked Eric if he would cut it for him. And we've kind of lost some steam on the shelf idea now that it's been a little bit of time. I think we will come back to it. I think he will come back to it. But I was like super excited to see him kind of wanting to get involved in the process and come up with his own ideas. And that just, it made my little mama heart proud, but it made my little creative girl proud too, that he kind of wanted to make something of his own. So yeah, other than that, school has been going mostly good. I will share this with you. Children. So the other day he came in from school and he was sitting on the couch. He typically has a snack when he comes home from school. And so he was sitting on the couch having his snack, and he told me that a kid at school called him dumb. He was like, somebody at school called me dumb today. And in my head, I was like, I cannot, like, you cannot throttle 7-year-olds, Kelly. That's socially unacceptable. But I wanted to. And I said, well, who called you that? And he said, they didn't say it to me. I just heard them say that I'm dumb. And so I told him in very, appropriate response, I said, when you hear somebody say that, just tell them that's not very kind. And I said, even if they don't say it to you, even if you just hear it, I said, just say out loud enough for them to hear that's not very kind. However, and I'm sure you can relate because kids are mean everywhere. It just broke my little mama heart. And I am at a slight disadvantage because I didn't like kids when I was a kid, and I surely don't like them now as an adult. The mean, the petty, the bullying, the all of that. I fought quite a bit when I was in high school. It is what it is. I did. But 9 times out of 10, it was not defending myself. It was defending somebody else. And like the fact that now as a mother, I cannot protect my child from the world. I can't. That would be, I guess I could try, but that would be a huge disservice to him to not go out there and experience life to the fullest, even though things like this are going to happen and they're going to be heartbreaking. And, he's too young to understand that those things don't matter. Those people don't matter. Their opinions are their opinions, and some people just say mean things because they've been hurt, or they say mean things because other people have said mean things to them. But obviously my child is not going to understand the concept of all of that. And a lot of times, people don't understand that until they get to be adults themselves. And even then, sometimes it's a struggle when people are, mean for no reason. But it is, it's very, very challenging, as a adult, to know where the line is. I remember being young and my mother, in fact, when I told her what happened, she reminded me of a time that I was being bullied and I refused to leave the house. And, she made me get in the car so we could drive over to these people's houses. And I was horrified. I was just absolutely mortified, embarrassed, because she, was making a to-do about it. Now I understand it a little bit more because I would totally not care one single iota whether or not I was embarrassing him, if I thought that there was anything that could be done about it. He does have parent-teacher conferences coming up. I will probably make mention of it to his teacher to make sure that it's not an ongoing problem. But basically the best thing I can do is teach him how to cope with it, because that's, again, people are going to be mean the whole rest of his life, because unfortunately some people are just built that way. So I will, if that has happened to you or your child, please know that those things are not true. And some people, most people are just doing it from a place of hurt. So I try to remind myself that. I try. I don't always succeed. But anyway, back to the card. So all the coloring's done. I did add some white highlights to my little Lazy Susan and the inside of my peony. Now I'm going to outline everything just because I am a sucker for a big, bold, black outline. And then In this set, they have a lot of really cute, tiny sentiments. I don't want to say tiny. They're smaller. They're not like minis. And so I really liked this one that said sweet friend. But then after I stamped it, I realized I needed something a little bit bigger in that space. So I'm just going to use my T-square ruler. For a long time, and really still to this day, I don't love my handwriting, but I have grown to kind of embrace it. So I am just going to hand letter a hello on there. So hello, sweet friend. And I just did it right along that line that I drew. I'm going to go back over it with that same pen, just a black pen. So it says hello, sweet friend. And then in hindsight, I kind of wish that I would have thickened up the letters a little bit, because some areas of that sweet friend are a little bit thicker, like traditional calligraphy, but I didn't. I waited for it to dry. I erased right over it. And then, I added my glitters to my flowers, because gold metallic embossing is not enough glitters. No, it is not. So I need to add more glitters. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me and for hanging in there. Again, I will link below to those sale items over at Spellbinders. And I will catch you on the next video. Bye.